But all things come to an end, Trace, just like this here show does, because we have done our fair best to entertain you here for another episode of Sons Today. Again, find us on YouTube at Sons of UCF. Hit subscribe, tell a friend, tell a neighbor, tell your doctor, tell your nurse, tell your mailman, are there still milkmen? Do we still do milkmen?
Somebody out there must be.
Milk. If you have milk at your house, tell the guy or gal who brought it to you to subscribe to the Sons UCF. Also, check out our audio feed where you can catch all this content as well. We are an OG podcast form, so we still try to get out there for the audio listeners as well. So find us there. It's been a fantastic ride. Trace, announcement time next week. We're back.
Got some things going on.
We're back.
Premiere week.
We're
a
back.
Sunzabration. That's
We're
how
back.
I explain it.
We have new episodes coming of Sons Live back alive, as you expected. I believe Around the Kingdom is coming back.
Even Around the Kingdom.
Around the Kingdom. And we have something special we want to do, something we've never done before that we're going to announce here sometime in the next couple of days. So make sure you keep it in your ear peeled for that. So we are back to regularly scheduling programming. So make sure you check all that out. So with that, we will bid you adieu for this particular episode. Everybody have a fantastic week. Take care of yourselves and each other. Go Knights.
Charge on.
What about the box, though, Trace? Is that with you tonight? I know you have like 8 or 9 million questions left in there that you want to get through. So, floor is yours, my friend. Go extra, supersize this if you need to. How many you got on your list there? Let's just roll through this.
Any sponsorship on this? It
would be Alumni Hall if you ask, Trace, and that's at 4100 North Alfaya Trail, right there across the street from campus. Therefore, find them online at alumnihall.com. So, yeah, but here's the thing, guys. If you're going to be at Fanfest on Saturday and you don't stop by Alumni Hall before Fanfest, you are doing it wrong. Get to Alumni Hall, get you some gear, get you some stuff. I think they open 9, 10 o'clock. Fanfest starts at 1 o'clock. You got plenty of time to go shopping. You can get a whole bunch of gear, then go to Fanfest. That's the move. Tell Jason, the manager there, that Trace and Adam said to say hello to him because he's a super nice guy. He'll take good care of you. Again, alumnihall.com is how you get some cool UCF gear.
I got a plethora of questions still remaining in the box. We'll go with this one. What was your high school class song?
I think this is actually very interesting if you understand what's happening on this particular program thus far. I believe our class song was Good Riddance by Green Day.
Oh, I love Green Day. Yeah.
It was Another Turning Point, a fork stuck in the road, which played on a famous sitcom at the one of the ends of their episodes as they did a bit of a montage. I believe that was the song we played at the end of my graduation.
Slightly older than you, Adam. Forever Young by Rod Stewart.
Okay.
Yeah. Rod Stewart, Forever Young.
Are you a big Rod Stewart fan?
No, I don't care. I mean, I'm happy to see he's like 80, still rocking.
Still doing well, yeah. No,
yeah.
As is Green Day, I believe, right? They're still with us. Let's go one more. That went faster than I expected.
One more. That was
a couple lines of Forever Young. I can do more good grades if you want me to.
A life-defining moment or event.
Well, this is going to be a tough one, right? Because you could go serious, right? Like, I have a wife, I have children. Like, I should probably pick those.
You should mention Addison.
Those are important.
I would say when you think about it, you mentioned it earlier, it's kind of a life-defining moment to have been a student at UCF and now have a child at UCF. That's pretty big. Congratulations.
It's a big one. Yeah. I don't want to get too sappy here, but like I showed up at UCF's campus, a wide-eyed freshman without a ton of understanding of what life is going to hold for me. And, and I've met some of my greatest friends there. I met my wife there. I now have a child, 2 children because of that situation who are now going to UCF. So it's a nice achievement, a nice accomplishment. So I'll give you that one. It's going to be interesting to see how it all plays out. I'm excited for Addison, and as a first time college goer parent, I suppose there's a little bit of nerves. Like, are they going to be okay? Did you teach them stuff? Do they know what to do? But you have to trust your kids. Have to trust you taught them the right things. And again, UCF worked out well for me, worked out well for you, and I hope that that UCF will do the same for Addison, allow her to grow and develop and become from a young lady to a woman that will be whatever Addison wants to be in life. So good life accomplishment. Got me out of having to think of something else.
You don't got another one? Oh, come on. It doesn't have to be sappy. That was a free one there.
Life accomplishment.
All right, I'll work on one, you think. high school, I was an exchange student in Ecuador before my senior year in high school. And that for me was very life defining. Instilled a love of travel, but really just had a blast as part of that program. I will give you one little suck up here. Listening to the very first episode of Sons of UCF and suggesting we don't need the competition, as I was part of another show. How do we invite them in? How do we expand the empire? And that led to getting to know you and Mike, and now look at where it's all gone. So that was a very life-defining moment that I continue to be a part of the UCF media space through the Sons of UCF. And that was because I gave you guys a listen and enjoyed what I heard.
No, that is very fair. I was on a show recently and we were talking about kind of they talk about the Belichick coaching tree, all the assistant coaches. There is a Trace Trelko media tree of people who end up sort of in this space and end up here and doing good jobs because of their interactions with you and what you taught them. So I do think there's a Trace Trelko media tree. I was thinking about this, though. Now that we're here, this is going to be at least mine. I know you've got some years on me in the media space. This will be my 8th season covering UCF football. We started this in August of 2018. I was thinking about this because of Addis. She was 11, by the way, when I started this podcast. And she's now going off to college, so that's how time flies. But I think about what we've done those 8 years, Trace, the people we've met, the conversations we've had. If you told me I would look at me Louis moment, open my phone up, and have the numbers of George O'Leary, Dante Culpepper, Mackenzie Milton at my fingertips, I would have said, I don't believe that's even possible, to be at media days and to interact with some of the folks and be interviewed on some of the shows we've been on. It has been a really cool ride. So where it takes us and how long it lasts, who the heck knows? But for the 8-year journey it's been thus far, it's been a fun endeavor. And so, but that's all thanks to everybody that's listening and watching, by the way, Trace. Not just you and me and the artist formerly known as UCF Mike, who I think is still out there someplace.
He's back. He's back with the moniker.
He's back with a back, unfortunately. And everyone out there that, again, we've made lifelong friends, Trace. I've made people that if you and I stop recording tomorrow, you and I will still talk. I will still talk to Eric Lopez. I will still talk to Brian Peterson. I will still talk to Dot. Like, I've made people I assume to be friends now for the rest of my life. So I think it has been a good life-changing, life-altering moment for all of us. But what we can talk about, it's this, Trace. It is the Brian W. Pearson mailbag. It is brought to you by our good friends at Florida Football Prep. Check them out at floridafootballprep.com. Our first one tonight, Trace, comes from at Riley Carey 16. A curious question: is Ted Roof now working for a roofing company?
No, he's doing a TED Talk, Riley. I saved up for that one all day.
I wish I had a rim shot available to maybe. It's applause. Sorry.
He's working on his TED Talks.
It's unfortunate. I wonder if he ever had like an advertisement deal with a roofing company. Like, that would be if he was your defensive coordinator in good standing, I suppose, or one of your top coaches, you would think if you're an enterprising young local roofing industry business that you would call up Ted Roof. Now, I'm not sure how he is as a pitch man. Don't know how I see him selling me a new aluminum roof or anything, but you would think there's a lot of synergy there if some roofing company did call Ted Roof. It's not.
Of course.
That's UCF_Zach, who, by the way,
always creative,
is just killing it on social media. I told someone today he's moved into my top 3 Twitter followers right now. Like, he's up in that echelon. I'm not saying he's number 3 either, by the way. He may be up there at 1 or 2. But his question is as follows: this offseason, KJ wasn't good at football, and that framed a lot of what happened for us in 2024. But it was kind of a quiet secret, he posits. UCF hope for the best. They stay quiet. So what is UCF Illuminati keeping under wraps this year? And blink 3 times if you're being watched.
Being watched by Night Nation right here on Sons Today. 1, 2, 3. Can I just clarify something, though? We talked a little bit earlier about the 10, 15, 20 minutes that we get, sometimes a little bit more, sometimes a little bit less, right? And watching select practices, 3 or 4 over the course of camp. And when we saw KJ Jefferson struggle, as we have seen Cam Fancher struggle, as we've seen Ja'Cory Brown struggle, as we've seen Taven Jackson struggle, at least, for me, I didn't hold back information at the directive of Gus Malzahn's staff or UCF. I can't speak for the rumor media that is out there in the UCF space and what their agenda may or may not be, but I didn't hold anything back. We get a short glimpse of things, just as this Cam Fancher ran out with the ones. Yeah, but what about the other practices? Scott Frost has said they're mixing things up, different people running with different groups. At some point, they have to settle on who's going with the first team, the second team, third team as they have it. We get a glimpse, not holding anything back. So I think what we have shown you has been our observation in camp and in practice. There have been some struggles on the quarterback. Still waiting to see who is emerging at other positions. But again, we don't get a whole lot of information. We give you what we know. I, for one, am not holding anything back.
I don't want to speak for UCF, Zach, but I think what he's saying, I don't know that he's accusing anybody of holding information. I think perhaps he's getting at is we all saw and or heard some struggles. We all kind of talked ourselves into it's going to be okay. He's going to be fine. It's just I think we all talked ourselves into saying our eyes are telling us something. Maybe or maybe not. People are whispering other things, but we kind of talked ourselves into saying that doesn't matter. It's like once the lights come on, he's going to be a different kind of quarterback. It was New Hampshire anyway. He was a little rusty. Oh, fine. So 2 games, no big deal. I think we just kept talking ourselves into how it would be okay. So I think that's what Zach is getting at. But you successfully dodged the question. Is there anything that you think is being kept under wraps, Trace? Do you have a hot take? I know this isn't the Pegasus podcast here, but do you have any hot takes or anything that you think is something that maybe isn't being talked about as much?
No, not really. I mean, I think this talk about who QB1 is, I don't think that naming somebody is going to make us all of a sudden feel, right, this is the greatest thing ever. I think we're going to have questions no matter who is named number 1. And I think we're going to go into that game against Jacksonville State. As I said on a recent show, maybe that quarterback looks different against North Carolina a couple of weeks after that. I think that is going to be a work in progress. Can it be manageable enough? Are there other strengths on this team that you are not so reliant on the quarterback? You got to get QB1 right in order for it to be a successful season. However, I don't think it matters who's named number 1. I think we're going to have questions until that person or other person not selected proves themselves and takes control of that job. So, no, I'm not holding anything back. I don't think there's any great big secrets. They have a little bit better idea of how that depth chart stacks up than we do. But I think the questions that we have are, as you mentioned earlier, only going to be answered once we see how this team looks when the lights are on.
I don't think this is something of a quiet nature, but I think it's something that we should recognize is the last time we saw Scott Frost offense, it was being run by a great quarterback, emphasis on great. As far as we can tell, we don't have any great quarterbacks in our room right now. We have maybe some really good, maybe even some average quarterbacks. So the system is not going to look like what you remember looking like in 2017, because again, we had a great, maybe an all-time great quarterback at the system. How will the system look? And we have, I know this is kind of like a taboo word in football, Trace, and you say this, it's kind of like a derogatory term. What if we just have a system quarterback? And that's kind of where we are right now, right? Like we're not going to have the great quarterback. We're going to have hopefully good to above average quarterback play. How does that system look when that happens? I think we have to brace ourselves for that. At UCF, Knights win. Do you think this whole 70-plus new players thing, they need time to gel, yada, 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 is that overblown? He or she posits 85% of the roster has been here since January. So, well, they've been here 9 months. We keep doing this it's a whole new roster thing, Trace. Is this whole thing overblown with the number of new players and the quote-unquote newness on this team?
I agree. And I thought it was an interesting question. Makes me rethink talking about it ad nauseum. Remember, Jacksonville State has a new head coach. A lot of their roster, I don't know the percentages, but a lot of their roster has turned over as well. You saw Rich Rodriguez in West Virginia. A lot of his roster has turned over. Is that the prevailing theme that goes into UCF and West Virginia, is the roster turnover? You got to go with who you got. And to the point that most of this team is together, I think that's right. And I think it's how you assemble that talent and the quality of that talent, the schemes, the coaching, all that's going to come together. Yeah, I'm tired of talking about it, but I think that's the change in college athletics. We get used to a guy being there for a couple of seasons, and that's eroded and been chipped at. When we have a Darius Johnson in men's basketball, you develop that relationship. You know what the quality of play is, what to expect from him, mistakes that he might make. You know him. We have a lot of things that we don't know, makes us feel uncertain, so we want to rely upon that number. I'm over that number. I thank the person who sent in the question for bringing it up. UCF Knights win. I'm ready to stop talking about it.
Look, I don't think you can talk about this season without saying that that's a thing, because it's a fact. What I think this question is getting at, and it's a great point to your point, that doesn't mean it has to be an excuse. It's a fact we have 72 players. That doesn't mean you can't win just because.
Is that the number this week?
He or she wrote 70. I think 69 was where we were floating at last time. I don't know if somebody showed up or left. I can't keep track anymore. So I think it's a fair point to say at some point this isn't an excuse. It is a fact. This is what this team has. But you mentioned it. Did you get the right players in place? Did you give them the right scheme to be successful? So it doesn't need to be an excuse, but you can't talk about this team without talking about the new players. But again, you can expect for them to win. At Golden Knight _2. How has your impression of Frost been pre-podcast and post-podcast? If I remember correctly, you started the Suns podcast right after Frost left 2018, which is true, and never had a chance to interview him previously. So Trace, you obviously did have some time with him, right? You were on the other podcast at that point. But has your opinion of Frost changed sort of the 2016, 2017 time to what you see of Frost now? How has it changed if it has?
So when a part of the Nightline show covering UCF initially in that 2016 season, it took a little while to build up some credibility for doing the show and to be credentialed by UCF. And remember, that season started off well. Great turnaround from 2015. A little stumble down the stretch. You know about the Cure Bowl and how that turned out. And then they won every game in 2017. So you didn't see grumpy Scott Frost. You didn't see him short with the media. And I don't know what that's going to look like should UCF struggle during the 2025 season. I find him interesting to talk with. I think he's thoughtful in his answers. I'm glad not to have as much of the coach speak as that we had with Gus Malzahn. I think he's more seasoned. Now, again, whether he's a good coach, we debated that recently with the guys from the Pegasus podcast. We're going to see play out. But I find him reasonable in his responses. I think he is thoughtful and answers the questions, and we'll see what happens during a struggle. He himself has said he doesn't know what from his team, how they're going to react when they get punched in the face. We're going to see how he reacts. Is he short? Is he gruff? We don't know. But I just find him to be more cerebral and conversational and answer your question, be thoughtful. And I think he's kind of laying it out there. We talked about, right? We're ripping on him a little bit. Some are for using the term mercenaries. Maybe you don't want him to say that, but it is candid. And so I appreciate that. To me, that's a breath of fresh air from Gus Malzahn. So I just find him to be a little more experienced. He has gone through some things since his first go round at UCF. And I don't have any issue with him so far.
Yeah, I think for me, so when Mike and I turned on the microphones of the Suns podcast in August of 2018, Frost had just left. The Adam of 2018 August, I was still very bitter and frustrated with Frost because he took away, in my view at that time, what was a great situation for UCF and had a lot of uncertainty with where we were going to be at. So I looked at it as this was the top time we were going to have, and it's all kind of changing. There's a part of me at that point, Trace, that was still very, I don't know, angry is not the word because I don't know him, so it's hard to be angry, but part of the whole Nebraska story, is he coming, is he going, is he leaving, is he staying, what's happening, the rumors, the cheesesteaks, all that stuff to me kind of tarnished a little bit of that 2017 season towards the end where, hey, we're going to be great, but hey, where's Scott Frost going? Like you couldn't talk about one without the other. And I was very disappointed at that point in time. Like, let's just focus on what this team is doing, but you couldn't do it without but Scott Frost is ... right? I mean, 8 years ago now, this is now our 8th football season at the Suns covering football, right? So I've changed. I've grown. I kind of get it now. I understand kind of the situation. So I've mellowed in some respects, and I think I get that part of it. Plus, he's back, so I can't be mad anymore, right? But yeah,
he's your guy again.
Adam of August 2018 was certainly not happy. But I also will posit this for you. I say the word posit like 9 times in a show these days.
It's better than to your point. It's different.
Also, posit this is not a good show title. I'm also of the fandom where I'm a huge Miami Heat fan, and LeBron up and leaves us in 2014 after 2 championships and 2 finals appearances elsewhere, right? And so there was a bit of me that was just scorned by the team I liked the most losing somebody important from that team. So I had a little bit of that scarring and baggage. So 2018 Adam, not happy with Scott Frost. I was very bitter and disappointed with that, but he's back. And I agree with you in our interactions with him at Media Day in Dallas, at our time on campus. He's, I wouldn't say he's overly friendly. He's not looking to come over and give you a hug and ask about how things are in your life, but he's very personable. He'll answer questions. He'll give you a straight answer. He stood around and told some stories about Jeopardy with us a few weeks ago. So I do find it to be refreshing to sort of see this version of Scott Frost, having not seen the first version as close as you did.
There's a nugget to share with you at the end of practice recently. He came up, we had the 15, 20 minutes, and then, of course, it's time to leave, and he was in the end zone. And he walked over, and he said, well, what'd you guys think? And I thought, Andrew Jericho said, Did Gus ever ask you? Yeah, go Gus doesn't care.
We're not talking about Gus. We're not talking about Gus who? Hold on.
The Pegasus podcast guys have a swear jar or whatever. John Rice Plumlee's name is said. Are you going to start charging me for bringing up Gus?
Maybe.
But Frost said, what'd you guys think of the moments that you got to see in practice? And I thought that was an interesting little insight into Scott Frost.
I may or may not have called Scott Frost this. Idiot _I4 wants to know, with Jaden Nixon and Miles Montgomery on the Doak Walker watch list, is UCF turning into running back U?
Show me how that watch list looks at the end of the season. Just like preseason polls, I don't know how interested I am now. I think they're both talented. Let's see what they do.
Actually, right now, I'm afraid the UCF's becoming backup quarterback U because Dylan Risk is now the backup at Stanford. Didn't win that job. EJ Colson, backup at Incarnate Word. So maybe UCF's turning into backup quarterback U here. No, I think if you're going to do a U for UCF, I think you have to debate it between wide receiver and defensive back. I think those are the two categories historically that UCF had. That there's had some good running backs coming out. RJ Harvey has obviously the potential. Latavius Murray obviously comes to mind as somebody. Kevin Smith had a good career at UCF, not so much in the NFL. So I think there's some noise there, but I think you're going to need a couple more years of successive running back success before you get there. I still think it's between wide receiver and defensive back for the U title at UCF. At blackgold_ed. Trace, what are your expectations of the new food items from Levy at the Bounce House? Or is it Levy? I don't know. The new restaurant company that'll be concessioning the Bounce House. Trace, what are your expectations?
Still avoid the shrimp po' boy. Just the lobster roll.
Don't get shrimp. Thank you.
Yeah. Cautiously optimistic. I heard some of the food offerings in the arena. Some people have posted some of the price points. It seems a little steep. Proceed with caution. Try it out.
I hope it works. I mean, obviously,
it's good for UCF.
It's a colossal failure to see what happened last season and health inspections and things like that. I think that there's no coincidence a change, I think, was made and probably largely due to some of those things. So it's a black eye for UCF to have that happen in the stadium. Hopefully it works out. Listen, you're never going to make 40,000 people love every single solitary food item. It's hard to have a great experience with, I don't know how many transactions they're doing a day. Call it 20,000 transactions. It's hard to have an A+ experience in 20,000 transactions. There's going to be something, but hopefully there's improvement. Hopefully this works out better. Hopefully the things you see become anomalies and abnormalities, not, oh, by the way, the food inspectors here. That I think is words that Terry Mahajer does not want to have to hear. Hot
dogs in the cabana.
Who do you think tells Terry that, by the way? Like who's the person who has the task to be like, excuse me, Terry, who's got that job? Because I don't think that's a job that I would relish, no pun intended, on getting. At UCF, 2025 will likely be the first season since 2019 that UCF doesn't sell out of season tickets, given new coaching hires, revenue sharing, food upgrades, and everything. What is UCF doing to improve the program? Is the fan base wrong for not buying up all these season tickets?
It is interesting, right? Multiple years where you've seen that countdown, less than 200, less than 100, and there hasn't been any of that. And maybe I've missed it in my travels, but where's the billboard campaign? What's the slogan? It's all been kind of low key, right? So far. There are a lot of factors. I don't know if it's team performance, that hangover from that guy you don't want to talk about anymore, and uncertainty in that roster, the turnover of players that was mentioned earlier. Maybe economic concerns as well on the part of some, or maybe it's just show me the money, prove it, win some games, restore the magic of the Bounce House. Let there be a little bit of energy there, and if you win, the crowds will come, right? So maybe there's not so much blind faith, at least in a portion of the fan base and the casuals. They want to fork over money right now. Maybe they want to see something.
As with most things in life, it's probably a little bit of all the above, right? Like I think all that stuff factors in. There was the unfortunate ticket snafu. I think that probably rubbed some people the wrong way. Maybe we're thinking about certain things, the performance on the field, some of the things that I think it's interesting. I will say this. I have been really surprised. You and I have a common friend. His name is Nelson, who you and I both know is a diehard UCF fan, loves the Knights, travels down to games. And it struck me a couple days ago that I hadn't talked to him in a while. And typically we message every couple of weeks. What do you think of the team? And I hadn't talked to him in a while. And so I sent him a message and just said, hey, checking in on you. Like, everything okay? And his response was, yeah, I don't know. I'm just not feeling it right now. Like, with everything changing, I haven't had the same level of like excitement I've had for UCF football. Maybe I'll get there. And I do think you run the risk of some of those diehard fans who are starting to get a little bit turned off by these things. But my hope is, knowing Nelson, who's a huge fan, once that first game pops on the TV on a Thursday, and hopefully UCF's doing well and there's some excitement, they'll be back in the fold and saying, okay, I want to get back involved. But I do think there are more Nelsons out there that have been a little bit turned off and just say, I need a break. I'm just not into this right now. But hopefully some of the results on the field will turn that back around. At Scott 88513. I don't know what those numbers mean, Scott. Maybe your zip code. I don't know. But Scott wants to know, will you guys be at Fanfest on Saturday?
You first. What do you got planned?
I will be at Fanfest Saturday. This is
breaking.
Scott did not ask this question, but I'm going to answer it this way anyway. It's a big weekend in Eaton Manor here. We are dropping my firstborn. Addison is going to be going to UCF this fall. We are bringing her to her dorm this week, and we are moving her in, and we are going to be on campus. So I will be there for FanFest, but it'll be a tad somber because immediately following that FanFest, I'll be getting in my car and driving back home without Addison, which is the first time we'll have ever done that. So it'll be an interesting weekend for us here in Eaton Manor, but excited for Addison to start her college journey. UCF took good care of me. I know they'll do the same for Addison as well. But I also am excited about FanFest and meeting the players. And my son has this thing. So I need your help, Trace. Maybe you can help me pick somebody really quickly off script. For 3 years in a row, we got 2 years in a row at least, we went to FanFest, and Aiden, my son, played rock, paper, scissors with Ricky Barber. Ricky Barber, no longer there. Who should he try to play rock, paper, scissors with on this team? Do you have any recommendations for him? Now, year one, Ricky Barber initiated the rock, paper, scissors. Year two, Aiden went back to him and said, hey, last year you played me in rock, paper, scissors. And Ricky said, bring it on. And they played again. Who should he go to? Do you have any recommendations for him on who he should hit up for rock, paper, scissors?
I think Paul Rubelt would be fun, and I'd love to see the size differential between your son and Paul Rubelt. Jaden Nixon is a fun guy, running back for UCF, and I had an opportunity at Player Media Day to speak with Dalton Riggs, and I think your son will hit it off with Dalton Riggs, the long snapper. So any of those guys, but there are a lot of good guys, a lot of good personalities on this team. I think he will find himself with some fun no matter who he ends up talking with.
Fun fact, he's 1-1 in those Ricky Barber conversations. Very upset to learn he would not be here this year because he wanted the rubber match. And I shared with him that he may have to go up to the Washington Commanders Fan Fest, where Ricky Barber is currently in camp, and see if he can play him there. And the last one for this evening, Trace, at United Nate. Last week, his question was about a wish list for stadium additions, renovations, Greek themes, moats, whatever. But he wants to know, what realistic stadium addition would you make if you had the ability to do so?
Well, I'm pro Knights and leaning into the Knights. I'm fine with a space game. I don't want to go overboard on the space theme. I'm pro a moat. I do think that you could have on the brick and the concrete around the stadium, it could look like a moat. I would love a drawbridge. I want the return of glycerin, reimagined, not the old style glycerin. So I lean in on all of the Knights stuff.
For those who don't know, Trace, very hoity-toity, sits in the press box with all of his press box cronies, drinking margaritas and
that's what happens up there.
Eating shrimp cocktail, whatever goes on.
That's what happens.
We've seen you out there. He doesn't sit with the common folk like the rest of us do. Shade, Trace, shade in the bounce house would be a must-have.
Those new towers they're building are going to
find a way to
new shade,
particularly on the side I sit in, which is the cabana side. Get us some shade overlooking there. Do that. You're up in the press box with pinkies in the air, drinking out of tea glasses, while the rest of us are burning our skin off in the rest of the stadium. The other thing I would say, Trace, there's a show on Netflix now, any given Saturday, about SEC football. It's essentially they follow an SEC team every week, and it's like an 8-episode series. The one thing I've noticed, I've watched a few of these episodes, all of these teams so far, their indoor practice facilities are beautiful. They got windows, they got banners, they got I think we need a little paint job there at the Nicholson. So if I'm not stadium related, but I see some of these indoor facilities and I'm like, man, that is nice. Like that's a tough thing to walk into and go, ooh, like I know what it looks like inside Nicholson. I know what it looks like there. So if he had the ability to, I wouldn't mind maybe a couple of spruce ups there to the indoor practice facility. Trace, your gears are here. And sometimes I know your gears get a little rusty. They get a little ornery. They get a little cranky because sometimes things
that really grinds my gears.
Grinds your gears. And I'm curious, as we sit here tonight, what is grinding your gears?
Preseason polls, Adam. I know it's talking season. It is what we do.
Hot kettle. Okay, continue.
Preseason polls. They are completely useless. I've already seen the Gators have 7 games on their schedule with preseason top 25 games. We'll see if those 7 that are on their schedule that are preseason top 25 remain that completely useless. Could we just play a couple of weeks, at least the non-conference portion of your schedule? Why? There's an obsession to have this as a talking point. And now I brought it up for my 30 seconds of grind your gears. I could live without that. Let's play a couple of weeks into the season, then release a poll.
3 O'Learys for me. This is beyond NGE, Trace. And here's why. Because these polls, for whatever reason, end up having some weight as the season goes on, right? You start talking about teams you beat ranked opponents. You're looking at other commonalities. You know, if you start high, do you fall off a list? You stay kind of ranked, and then you're doing bowl seedings. So these polls have a direct reflection on what happens as the season plays out. So a team that has no business being ranked, 14th, let's just say, somehow is there, loses a few games, gets back in, wins one, and all of a sudden that's a ranked win for somebody. When in the reality is that team should have never been ranked 14th. So I think this is 3 O'Learys. This is beyond not good enough because it has impact later in the season. If this is just for fodder, just for fun, a power ranking of some sort, yeah, fine, whatever, cool. But people use these as they make decisions that impact the rest of the season. That, for me, Trace, is why I agree with you.
That really grinds my gears.
It really grinds my gears. You know what grinds my gears, Trace? I'm here tonight on behalf of, me, to make an edict. I am done talking about Gus Malzahn.
No, you're not.
A lot of guys, probably not, but I think I'm done talking about Gus Malzahn. I saw quotes he was going to retire. People didn't know what he was doing, and can we just move on from Gus Malzahn? That is a dark history in our mind right now. At some point, it'll fade. It'll get a little bit easier, but for right now, it's just a part of our journey that we all had to go through. We all have to move on from. Gus has moved on to a greener pasture, in his opinion. We have now got a new regime that's in place that's bringing, hopefully, UCF football to a spot we all feel good about again. Can we just stop with the Gus? And Florida State fans are yelling at us, you don't know, your team this, your team that. And it's very reminiscent to what Auburn fans told UCF fans in 2021 when Gus was hired. And we all said, oh, we've got this guy. He's a play calling genius. I just think, Gus is gone. Sail him off to the sunset. Let him enjoy his time in Tallahassee. We've moved on. He's moved on. Let's just be done talking about Gus. There's very few people on this team that actually were here last season, so it's not like you got a lot of holdover. It's an entirely new staff, absent of 2 or 3 people, but they also had ties to the old staff. So there's really almost nothing Gus Malzahn related that is in the building currently today for UCF football. Yet we keep talking about him. I want to move on from Gus, Trace. That's what's grinding my gears. We keep having Gus conversation. Gus ain't here no more. So I want to move on from Gus. That is my gear grinder.
I got to laugh. Scott Frost talking about UCF Fast was still up on the walls. What was remaining of the Gus Malzahn era, as you mentioned, that we moved on from Gus? I'm going to give it 2 O'Learys. I don't love it, Ace. We love to watch Gus, and we're rooting against Florida State, and it adds to a little bit of rivalry in state. I think that's where we're going to be talking about Gus over the course of this season.
Yeah. If you want to talk about the context of how his new team is doing, that's fine. But to keep rehashing the things Gus did and this, that, and that, it's over. It's done. Let's just move on. Everyone kind of wins in this situation, right? Like he got to where he wants to be. We got to move on. There was some money saved apparently down this transactional wire as well. Everybody's winning. I say,
that really grinds my gears.
Grinds my gears that we still keep talking about Gus. He's no longer at UCF. What we're going to do for you now, though, is how we always start. That's not how we start.
One big thing.
That's how we start. That's our big story of the day. Talked by Trace and I, brought to you by our good friends at Werner Hoffman, Greg and Garcia. Find them at wernerhoffman.com. Trace, our big story. Camp, fall camp, spring camp, preseason camp, whatever you want to call it.
It's not spring camp.
I have two questions for you.
Yeah.
Give me one thing you know for sure right now as you sit here, and one thing that you don't yet know as you sit here.
Maybe it's recency bias. Maybe it was an extended conversation with defensive coordinator Alex Grinch, but I think that I know that the defense is going to be pretty good. And I believe in the defensive line. They've been flying around the ball. This may be a reflection on the offense. There's that possibility. But I wasn't one of the Alex Grinch naysayers at the time of his hire. There was a lot of piling on effect by the fan base, those in the UCF media space. I was not amongst them. I want to give him a fair shake. I like him. And I think they're going to fly around. I think there's talent, especially along that defensive line. Now, we could be completely wrong, and the O-line could be the standout unit, and the D-line could not. But I believe in them right now that the defense is going to be pretty good, and I believe in the defensive line.
I agree with your premise on the D line. I think we've heard from player interviews, coach interviews, and you just know the names coming back and their pedigree, their production. I think you do feel good about that D line being the strength of this defense. I don't think that's a reach. I do think that is probably a fair statement. Now, to your point, relative to the rest of the defense, how good are they going to be? I guess that's a question, but I do think that is a unit that hopefully will show up for UCF a lot in the season coming up. I'll say this about Grinch. I don't know if he can coach football. He's good at the microphone. I gotta admit, like, I enjoy hearing him. I enjoy his perspective. I enjoy listening to him kind of walk through some of the things that he expects as a coach, how that translates to a Saturday. I don't know. It's very clear, that he has some stench to him, similar to like a Scott Frost, right? Of some bad taste in the mouth from a previous stop. USC did not go well. He gets a lot of blame for stuff there. Has he reinvented himself as a coach? Has he done some of those things that we hope that Scott Frost has done? Remains to be seen, Trace. But I do think that is a good one on what you know. I'll go next, and then I'll come back to you for what you don't know yet. Here's what I think I know about this team. There's a lot of young talent on this team, Trace. There's a lot of young, talented players on both sides of the football that I think are really, really good potential for this UCF team. Waden Charles is turning heads every single solitary day in camp. He's making a catch. He's doing something that's fantastic. Antoine Jackson, although an older player, we didn't see him for about a year because of injury, right? He wasn't playing as much, and as well, he's turning heads in camp every day. And so I think there's some young talent on this team. The secondary has got some young players as well. Lewis Carter's name came up at linebacker recently in conversations. I think there's some young talent on this team. I think they've kind of reloaded a little bit from a talent standpoint. And I think there's some players on this team that if you lined our 11 against the other team's 11, we may have the more talented group just from a pure talent and athleticism standpoint. Now, can they play in depth and all that stuff? That remains to be seen. But Trace, there's some young talent on this team. And I don't think you can deny that. I think we're seeing flashes of that each and every day at fall camp.
I think that's fair. And I think if you go back to Scott Frost 1.0, it was the emergence of that talent, right? Young guys. He gave young guys opportunities. I think that's going to be an interesting thing to watch, especially in the early part of the season. We've been talking about who wants to seize the opportunity and seize positions, and the young guys know that they're in the mix for some of these jobs.
All right, Trace, what's one thing that you don't know yet? Something you're not sure about?
I think the easy space on the bingo board here is the questions at quarterback. And we don't know in UCF struggles during the season what a loss might look like. Would it be a blowout loss? Would it be a close loss? Scott Frost saying himself after the most recent scrimmage. What he doesn't know is how this team will fare when it's punched in the mouth, right? When it faces adversity. What I don't know that goes along with that is how they're going to fare in close games. Fourth quarter games. It's something Gus Malzahn talked about going into one season, right? The first season, I think, in the Big 12 or second season, how the Knights would fare in fourth quarter games, close games. I think that is akin to what Frost is saying about facing adversity. That I don't know. We won't know until we see it play out. Of course, you could lose a game 42-6, and that won't come into play. But when they face adversity, when they're in tight games, Do they crumble under the pressure, especially in a road environment? Do they make mistakes? You heard a little bit more talk in recent days about not beating themselves with penalties, turnovers. How do they do in those situations? That I don't know about this team, and I'm very curious to see how they respond, because that has been a mark of Scott Frost in his Nebraska tenure, or all of those close losses. And I certainly don't want to see this team lose or get blown out, but are they going to face a lot of tough road losses, home losses by a few points late? Boy, that would add to that Scott Frost narrative of not being able to win close games.
Well, here's the problem. We're not going to know that until we start playing the games, right? And we can do all the practicing, all the scrimmaging you want, and coaches are trying to put them in situations to test that. But I think it was Coach Grinch who said this on his availability on Monday. You don't know until you're in that situation. You're not going to know how a guy's going to respond when the lights are on, when a crowd's yelling, when the weather is not great, when everything's coming against you. You're not going to know how that guy and his teammates around him are going to come together. And that's the beauty and the agony of football, is you don't know. You think you can see it on film. You think you see it on tape. You think you see it on practice, but then you get to a game and everything kind of changes. And how do you respond? And I don't know when we're going to know that, Trace. We might not know that week 1. We may not know that week 2.
I don't know if I want to know that week 1.
Maybe we learn week 3, maybe week 4. Like, you may not know that till later in the season. So that's one of those that check back with us later on whether or not we've ever figured out if you actually do feel good about it or if you're sure about it. Because again, I think coaches would pay a significant amount of money if someone can guarantee them these things going into a season. But as we all know, there's no guarantees, Trace. Here's one thing I'm not sure about. Can this offense score points? I know this sounds weird thinking about a Scott Frost-led offense, but are they going to be able to put up enough points to keep them in ball games? You talked about on your side of this that you feel good about the defense, and I agree with that. I think our defense potentially has the ability to hold teams to a decent total, maybe some turnovers and takeaways, right? But in order to win some games, you're going to need the offense to put some points on the board. We've talked in previous episodes, Scott Frost, if you take away the min and the max of his career, is about a 28 a game average point per score as a play caller. Can UCF get to that number? Do they have consistent quarterback play? Is the offensive line ready and willing and able? Will one of those receivers like a Wade and Charles kind of break out and become the person we think he can be? How much of the tight end is going to play into that? I think there's just still so much with this offense that until we see it live and in action, and all we're seeing is the 15 minutes that you and Nick Williams and Andrew Cherico can capture with your iPhones, until we see it live against another team with referees and crowd noise, I just don't know if this offense has enough to be able to consistently put points on the board. Quarterback's the easy one on the bingo card. I get it. But we still don't know, Trace. We're still not quite sure what the quarterback situation looks like. And so what I'm not sure about is, can this offense keep up and score points to keep UCF in games?
A note on quarterback: 3 straight weeks I have polled a temperature check of the fan base asking, who do you think QB1 is? And each of the first 2 weeks, it was consistent. Taven, 53-54%, Ja'Cory, 36-38%, Cam, 8-10, 11%. Then Cam Fancher in our 15 minutes of media availability earlier in the week rolls out with the ones, first pass, interception. But nearly 50% of poll respondents say Cam Fancher now will be your QB1. Ja'Cory drops to 28%. Taven was running with the 3s. What does that mean? It means that he's now 3rd in this polling about whether he starts. I don't know that we know. I don't know that UCF knows. We get a 15-minute glimpse there, and maybe some overreaction. Remember, Frost and crew know we're in there. Is that by design? Who rolls out? And we only see that 15 minutes. Who rolls out with everybody else in the couple of hours they practice when we're not there, and the multiple days when we don't see them? We don't know that. QB1 remains a question mark as we go into the week 3 here of preseason camp.
Yeah, certainly still some work to be understood there. I think Frost mentioned at the Thursday scrimmage, Fancher was held out due to a lat injury of some sort, right? So, is he healthy? We saw him, banged up at the end of spring camp as well. But again, 15, 20 minutes of what we're seeing. And I think some of that is a direct reflection of the video clips that we're able to capture and the throws you see. But here's what people aren't looking at sometimes. Who are they throwing to? Are they throwing to the 1s, the 2s, the 3s? What receivers are getting open, separation? if I'm a quarterback right now, if I'm a UCF, I kind of want to throw to number 19, Wade Charles, right? I'd like to have him in my group as I'm throwing the football to be evaluated for the quarterback spot. So again, much to be had there. We've talked about this at length, and I don't know that we can add any more to it. So we'll leave it here for right now. But certainly, quarterback is an unknown, and hopefully, we'll get more information soon. And I don't know though that Scott's going to call us up personally and tell us who the quarterback is. I think he might just trot that person out on Thursday the 28th, and we'll all learn together at the same time. Friends, welcome back to Suns Today, your home for the summer Suns content, which is again dwindling by the day. Trace Strelko, welcome back into another episode. Trace, how are you, my friend?
I am good. Hey, you know what? I say preseason camp all the time because it's not fall, but we keep calling this thing fall camp. It's 100 degrees outside and not technically fall. So you'll hear me say preseason camp. But yeah, summer dwindling a little bit in terms of the football talk.
It's confusing because there's a spring camp, there's a fall camp, but we'll get into all that. We also have what's grinding our gears. We have mailbag, what's in the box. Trace has like 30 questions left. And so we got to rifle through a bunch of those here as we do that. But as always, we do one thing, remind you to subscribe to this here YouTube channel. As of this recording, we're about 18-ish away from 2,000. So please do us a favor, tell a friend, tell a neighbor, tell a mailman to subscribe to the Suns YouTube channel. We'd love to get there before the season starts. But if my math is correct, Trace, we're about 2.5-ish weeks. So a subscriber a day. And we are there in no time. That's what we need from you